Hey, how's it going? Jarvis Underground and Jarvis Nation. Darby Rollins here, and I am accompanied by uh, Ginna Tassanelli.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
got it.
Who is going to be talking to us today about 4 powerful steps to sharing your story and energizing your audience. Gina recently published a book with a collection of 18 authors who were sharing their journey of overcoming mediocrity and taking a hold of their life to become better. And she helps empower high achieving, heart centered experts such as coaches and consultants to show them how the brand in their business and helping them level up their style, their image, their social media marketing presence. And we can tie all of that back to how your book, again, is that cornerstone for your brand and your marketing
Yeah.
and your platform. So, Gina, thank you so much for making it here. I know it's been a bit of a trip making
No,
it today.
thank you. Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited to dive into this with you. I mean, just following you, what you have been doing over the last, in your time on social media since I was connected with you recently. Obviously, wear a lot of hats, right? You work with a
Yeah.
lot of different people, but you are a powerhouse in the space of social media marketing. So I kind of want to just kick things
Thanks.
off a little bit, but like tell me a little bit about the recent book that you have worked with, because I've always been interested in what these like collection of authors and putting together a book and like how you're leveraging everyone's audience in that case for the book getting out. So you just give me like a little bit of everyone listening and tuning in here, a bit of a background on your most recent book and why you wrote and took that venture in the first place.
Yeah. So, it was actually the publisher. She and I have become great business connections. And for a couple years, she had introduced the book to me and had told me about it. And I just was like, I don't have a special story to share. I just don't know what I could, I don't know that I'm that special. And the interesting thing is, I help other business experts, other entrepreneurs to figure out what their story is so that they can make that connection with their own business and their brand. But when it came to me, I just couldn't figure it out. And so I finally understood the purpose. And yeah, so we really dug into um, what where my passion came from for what I do. And it really started from my childhood. And so, you go back. It's a very it's a deep journey. There's a lot of self-awareness that you do when you're writing a story about yourself. And so it developed and I said yes. And yeah, and then here we are today. So it launched last week actually.
Congratulations. How
Yeah,
uh,
thank
how
you.
how long did the build up to take to that launch? How long were you actually involved with that?
Um, I would say it was about 4 or 5 months or so.
Okay.
And it was this one was a really great experience because I wasn't in it on my own. I had another 17 authors with me. And so we met every week throughout that whole time to share our stories, to help each other out in identifying, what are the pieces of our story that are really going to impact someone else that could be dealing with the same struggles or maybe has in the past. And that's really the whole point is you want to share your story in a way that's going to resonate with others, and it helps them get to see you not just as an expert but also as a real human that also has their own challenges and struggles, and so they can resonate with that. So it was about 4 or 5 months. And then we did a lot of collaborations together. I interviewed a few of the authors on Facebook and vice versa. I was on some podcasts with them. So that was another really great experience with that, is just being able to connect with women that were also in the book and had the same focus and purpose for their story and the book and as a whole.
Well, it sounds like it was a really cool experience just to connect with a
Yeah.
lot of other, high performing, like minded people in your space and learn from other people as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did like when you're going through those interview processes and sharing your
Mhm.
story,
Yeah.
um, how did, we're talking about like AI and books here, right? It's one small
Right.
section of the platform. I'm curious, how did you to take those stories away and did you write your own Like, did you put it into Jarvis and then kind of like go from there when it came to the actual writing portion of it?
So
Or
I will say Jarvis was very helpful, because personally, I'm not a great writer. I just am not. It's not my forte. And so I have lots of thoughts in my head, but when I go to put them down on paper, it just doesn't come out the way that, in a way that's going to be exciting and um, fun to keep people attentive to the story. So I did use Jarvis for certain like introduction paragraphs and to rewrite my thoughts. And so that was super helpful when it came to writing my story and having Jarvis kind of be in my back pocket too.
yeah, it's super helpful for
Yeah.
getting the ball rolling, right? And
Oh,
then
absolutely.
and then it comes to the real powerful stuff, which is the sharing the story, the engagement that you can create through your own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of what we're going to be talking today. You've got four steps that you kind of talk about, and I guess like the pillar of like your marketing.
Hmm.
Um, how I guess kind of like do you have any like specific steps that you kind of want to dive into right now? I don't know if you had anything to share the screen or if we just
Yeah.
kind of roll through it.
We're just gonna have a conversation.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so if you do want to take some notes, this would be the time for sure. So
Hmm.
take out your pen, paper, or type it out. So the first thing I wanted to mention is, when we're going through the process, it can be a very awkward process. And in general, just putting yourself out there as a personal brand can be a very awkward process. And that's really what has led me to doing the work that I do today. So, as a little bit of background, when I started in marketing, which has been 13 years plus now, that I've had my social media agency, what I realized for myself being on my own is that I was leading with my website, my services, my logo, and I wasn't putting myself in front of my business. So I quickly realized that the missing puzzle piece was myself, was how I was showing up. And so when you're thinking of writing your story, you want to write it in a way that is giving them a good insight of who you are as a human being, because that is what your brand, when you are an entrepreneur, that is what your brand is about. Your brand is you. It's not the services or your logo or the colors or the fonts or any of that. It's actually you. Um so what I did is I kind of wrote things out very similar to a marketing foundation platform of when you talk about a problem, you agitate it, you then give a solution, which, by the way, is one of the frameworks inside of Jarvis. So, number one thing that I did is I first thought about what's the problem that I want to solve, right? So, for me personally, going through my story and understanding how my story has led me to where I am today, the problem that I wanted to solve was that as an entrepreneur, many of us, like myself in the beginning, we have a sense of leading with our products first, thinking that our products are our brand, or like I said, our websites are brand, or our logos are brand, and that can really stop you from building a long-term business. It doesn't. You typically, unless you have, thousands and hundreds of thousands to invest in advertising, it's really going to be hard to get people to connect with you when you're pushing product or pushing your services. So the problem I wanted to solve was to communicate my story in a way of letting people know that when you show up as a personal brand and as a real human in your business, you can actually be really successful in your business as an entrepreneur. You don't have to give up. Um, and so that was the problem. And then I gave insight into what sparked the start of me figuring this out for myself. So the insight was that I realized that I couldn't my agency. I wasn't getting new clients because they weren't getting to know who I was. And so that was also part of my story is letting people know, when I first started as an entrepreneur, this is what happened. I started my agency. I was pushing my website and services and not letting people in, not letting them get to know me. Um, and then number three is how we're going to fix that problem. And so the way to fix it is to learn and understand that that's the missing piece in your business, is to show up as a personal brand. It takes less time creating content for your business when you're marketing yourself on social media, when you are being more authentic and genuine about who you are and about your business and about the value that you bring to people, rather than pushing the benefits of what it is that you offer. I mean, the features of what it is that you offer. You want to lead with your benefits. Um, and then the last thing is, what's your mission? So think about what your mission is. For me, my mission is to share these foundational steps to other entrepreneurs so that they can stop spinning their wheels in, feeling like they have to be on social media 24/7, or feeling like they have to um, feel icky about marketing themselves, and instead leading with serving with intention, and understanding that when you lead with value, people will want to actually buy from you. They will want to throw those credit cards at you because they're getting to know you, and they get to know what it is that you can help them with, rather than, what features of your brand, or not your brand, but your product or your services are. So those are the four main steps. So number one was to, which problem do you solve? Number two, which insight sparked the start of your business to be able to solve that problem? Number three, what are you doing now to fix the problem? And number four, what is your mission? And you tie your story into all of that. So you make it very personal.
Yeah, no, those are really simple sounding steps that I
Yeah.
should have heard 4 years ago when I was starting out selling products on Amazon. And I was like, buy my product, buy my product. It gets very difficult to build something, like you said, is like if you're selling a product
Yeah.
only, right, you're going to be competing at a different level, right? But when you're
Right.
selling your story and your personal brand, you can
Right.
really carve out that ocean of your own. Because if you're being yourself, no one else is going to be
Absolutely.
you like you can be you, right?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but it's hard. I mean, like, especially starting out as entrepreneurs. I mean, like from my experience, anyways, it's so easy to focus on the features and
It
get
is.
scared behind from personal experience, hiding behind a product first,
Yeah.
to making the flip to saying like, no, this is actually what I believe, and I'm going to put myself out there to do it. Um, there's a lot of internal change and like transformation needs to happen for that. I'm curious, kind of, in
Yeah.
your own experience, what sort of transformations have you seen? Maybe what like practices have you engaged in that have helped you with putting yourself out there and helping your clients put themselves out there to be more authentic?
Yeah. So one of the very first things that I did is, I was a very private person in the beginning when I started my business. And even my public Facebook business, my business page was the logo, and the cover there were never images of me. You would never even know who owned the agency. And so I switched that, and I put a picture of myself as a profile, as a little profile pic. That was honestly like the very first thing I did. My Instagram, I turned it to public instead of private. And I realized that it's okay to be public. It doesn't mean you have to dish everything out, and you can be selective as to what it is that you put out there. So when I changed all of that, I started to notice a difference in the way people were interacting with me and reaching out to me, and the connections that I was making virtually, because, I've been in the online space for so long, but I was still like hiding, like you said, hiding behind everything. Um, and then having mentors, really helps too. I think it's so important. Even I coach other entrepreneurs on how to use social media and how to show up as a personal brand. But I have my own mentors, one of whom you know, Molly, who introduced us, and working with people that you see that are really putting themselves out there in a way that aligns with you. So not trying to be like other people, being yourself. So there is a lot of self-awareness work that you definitely go through. Um, I did a lot of journaling too, like just
Mhm.
journaling about my day. And then I would turn those little things that would happen throughout the day into share them as, posts. And so that really started to help making some more authentic connections as well.
Yeah, it's something that I've heard is like the your vibe attracts your tribe, sort of like mentality. Like you're gonna hang out with the people that you're gonna want to hang out with, and
Yeah,
that bring out the best in you versus the worst in you. And
totally.
it's exactly what that you've done with the just connecting with 17 other authors and building this platform with a bunch of other people.
Right.
Like the ripple effects of that, and you're going to be experiencing the benefits of this book and the connections for years to come. What are
Yeah.
some of your personal goals with using this book, and like more like having your own like why behind it and sharing your story out there? We've talked about like the impact it's going to make.
Hmm.
Specifically with growing your own business, I'm curious,
Hmm.
like, what are you planning on doing if like from a marketing perspective to
Right.
leverage this book now that you put all the work in over the last 5, 6 months?
So, right off the bat, something that I've already started doing is I partnered up with a nonprofit. So there are proceeds from the book are going to go to, it's called the Blue Ribbon Movement for Nurses. Um, and that is just something that I wanted to do just with how things are going on right now in the world. And I thought that that would be a great way to get the book out there because I didn't say yes to this story to honestly to make money off the book. It was my intention was to share my story along with all of the other stories in the book, and then again just to tell more about who I am. I get so often, especially within my own program, people say, "Oh, but you've been doing this for so long," or you have everything so perfect. And I just want people to know that everybody starts from somewhere, and we weren't born like knowing how to do our business. We weren't born knowing how to market ourselves. We all go through challenges and struggles, and so I wanted to really give people a real insight as to like the grinds, like what it's really like. I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I have actually a few businesses, so I'm constantly wearing a lot of hats.
Mhm.
I barely made it here today, so I want people to know that what you see out in public is not always exactly how it is. And also as entrepreneurs, we follow these really high level experts, and we think like their lives are perfect, and they're really not. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what their struggles are, how many investors are behind them helping them, show up all over the place, all of that. So yeah, so my purpose really is to share just a real life, um, what it's like to start a business, and what you can do with your business when you actually show up in your business as your brand and not hide.
Is there any like assumptions that people make about you specifically, where
Yeah.
it's kind of annoying because you're like, no, that's not the case. Like, I mean, you mentioned like, oh, you've been doing it for so long, it must
Yeah.
come here. Are there any like assumptions that just continue to come up again and again?
Yes, I'm a huge believer in planning, and because I work so much with all the technical side of social media and content creation and all of that, I have a program with amazing women in there, entrepreneurs. Most of them are coaches, and I probably sound like a broken record to them, when we're trying to batch content, just for example. And, most people, even like myself, when I first started, if I was to put anything out on social media, it would be right at the moment, not putting much thought into it. So I try to teach a content creation process. And so, I get very often things like, well, you have a team behind you that can help you with all this right away. And I just recently like started with a team, and I've been in business for 13 years. So, in up until then, up until literally about 2 years ago, I was doing everything that I do and that I teach. I was doing it all on my own. So you can do all the things on your own. You don't have to have a huge team behind you. Once you grow and to a place where you can budget for that, then that's wonderful. But so that's a misconception, is that we all have it like all together, because we have people that are supporting us. But that was a very it's only been very until very recently that I have a team behind me helping me. So I would say that that's one. And then when people think that like life is perfect, and it's totally not. It's we have real lives, and we're human just like everyone else. um so I think those would be the main two things that people have misconceptions on.
Yeah, and I love the like authenticness that's, I mean, over the last few years, even I think you've seen like a transformation in like social media from going away from like the classic
Yeah.
5 year ago Instagram, everything has to be picture perfect. There's still
Right.
that aesthetic there, but then you have a little bit more the raw, real, quick to get the content out type of thing.
Right.
And even looking at like Gary Vaynerchuk for an example, is like a lot of his content just looks like it was shot on an iPhone, but he does
Right.
have that team behind it. And so everyone's like, well, if this is how Gary does it, then maybe it's how everyone's doing it. It almost seems like a compliment in a way, like, wow, like you're so effective at what you do that you like people think that you're like 8 people at once.
Right.
Do you, I mean, I'm sure you have your own systems and process around it. What's like a really simple way that someone can like approach batching content so they don't feel like they're rushed and in the moment to just get stuff out there and it's not really planned out accordingly and it ends up costing them more time?
Yeah. So I love video. And so I really believe that if you can take a 10-minute video, preferably live, because you can connect more with people. Take your video and repurpose that in different ways. Chop it up into 15-second little clips, or transcribe it into a blog post. And then from that blog post, you've got little tips and quotes that you can create for social media graphics for the rest of the week. So I really believe in like having one big piece of content and then using that piece of content in a whole bunch of different ways to create content throughout the week or the month. Um, it's the easiest, and it keeps your message cohesive too. It's not like all over the place.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we're doing here with like even these lives, for example. I
Mhm.
mean, we're gonna, bring this down, chop it up, and start dripping it out over the next few weeks. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that the act of creating content nowadays with the tools that we've got, it's easier than ever. It's more of
Hmm.
like, okay, like understanding just all the things that go into that process that what overwhelmed me for years and even doing with the process. And I didn't realize how, one of the tools, for example, is called Content Fries that a few months ago I got started with. Are you
I
familiar
use
with?
I use content fries. Yes,
It,
I
it,
love
make,
it.
it makes it so easy to just chop them up and break it down. And that's what
Yeah.
we did when we were going through our book launch ourselves. Got to the point where we could bring on a video editor to help
Hmm.
with chopping some of it up. And so now like we've got that growing team in the background, and but without knowing the process at the
Right.
beginning and knowing what we wanted and going through that hard work, I don't
Right.
think we would be as effective with bringing someone on and hiring somebody, which I know is a downfall. Oftentimes, is outsourcing your hiring too soon before you understand the process.
Definitely.
Have you had a similar experience in like in the past, before like say like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
getting kind of like the entrepreneurial side of things? Um, have you had like a similar experience with outsourcing stuff like too soon?
Um, well, outsourcing too soon, but not really knowing exactly what I wanted from the person in
Mm,
that
yeah.
regard. When it came to content though, like I just felt like I was content dumping. One of my partners actually said that phrase to me one day, and that's what I felt like I was doing. Like, okay, Monday it needed to be motivational Monday, and Tuesday tip Tuesday, and like, and none of it really made sense to what my audience I think even really wanted or needed. And so that's really what I struggled with in the beginning for my own business. That's the interesting thing is, you have a company, I can do it for you all day long. But when it came to my own business, and I think this is normal for many of us entrepreneurs because we're so close to it, to our own business, that we can't see, on the outside, what other people are seeing. So one quick thing that I do tell people if they're ever like in a bind and just not sure what kind of content to post is just write down like 10 or 20 questions that you get asked all the time about your product or your service, or objections, and then you answer those, and that's content. So it's, content should be meant to answer your ideal client's questions. That's going to get them closer to
Mhm.
knowing the value that you can provide. And Jarvis does that really
I was about to say, like,
amazingly.
I was like, have you been using Jarvis for this? Because I
Oh my
certainly
gosh.
have.
Yes, I use Jarvis probably like 15, 20 times a day. I mean, he's open all the time for me.
Yeah, I mean, like, same. I mean, I probably have like 3 different tabs open right now with different different projects going. But I like last week I was working with someone on creating a recipe. They were looking to create some viral Twitter thread sort of recipe where you can kind of like, okay, here's the theme and here's how we like ask the questions. It was like
Yeah,
you could basically just ask Jarvis all day to just give you really engaging questions on any
totally.
topic whatsoever and never run out of content. And so
Yeah. It's like incredible. It's amazing.
have you customized any recipes yourself on the platform?
I have
Or have you,
not. I definitely use the recipes.
what are
One,
some of your
yeah.
favorite ones? Yeah.
So there is one that I use every week to put together my own live video plan for the week, and it's actually one that was created by a good friend of mine. So it's a live, just a live outline, and so I take that outline and I'll create my email from it also for my Facebook Live, and then I'll also create, the posts that are going to go out throughout the week to promote the Facebook Live. So I take the pieces from there. Um, so that's the one that I've used so far because it it pretty much like types out an entire outline for me for my live, and then I just add some bits to it to make it a blog post.
Mhm. Is that
Yeah.
a secret recipe that you're holding on to?
No, it's actually, well, Molly
Is it
gave
no,
it to
it's
us.
I think I know which one you're talking about. It should be listed up there. I haven't
Is
gone through
it?
and used it. Well,
Yeah,
there's it's
I
and I
actually
think
have it in front of
finding
me.
I think finding one like solid source of truth for the recipes is like some stuff gets made, but it's not listed like outright in front of where everyone can find it. I know Molly came up with some
She has this video
YouTube.
script blueprint with show notes,
Let me see if video.
and it's really
Yeah,
awesome.
okay, I do have it right here.
Yeah.
So video script blueprint with show notes. I'm gonna share it
Oh, yeah,
on.
that is here. I didn't realize that that was like a public one. Yeah, so
Yeah, so
use
it's a
that.
cool. So
That was amazing.
I think I just posted it so anyone that's watching this live might be able to see it or not. But if you aren't watching this live or you are watching it live and can't find it, um, video script blueprint with show notes made by
Yep.
Molly Mahoney. Go check it out in the recipe section. I'm definitely going to check it out. I didn't. I hadn't actually gone through this the entire way, but so you're taking it and you're
It's
going to
so
your
good.
emails and your posts from this one
Yep.
recipe.
From this one recipe, and the show notes are a blog post. Initially, that's what they are.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We got Greg tuning in here. Says Stephanie Lou did a great training on something like this a few months ago. Yeah, it's awesome. I need to check
Stephanie
that
is
out
awesome.
too.
Yeah.
And, Devin had a comment as well. So thank you for sharing, Ginna. All of
Oh, you're
this is
welcome.
valuable.
Awesome.
Cool.
Which one is your favorite recipe?
Well, let me see. I haven't really been using. My favorite recipe right now, I would have to say, as self-pluggish as it sounds, is where I've been working with Zachariah on
Uh-huh.
developing this hero's journey recipe, and to put it in line with the nonfiction intro and outline recipe that we had made a few months ago.
Oh,
Because what we're
cool.
finding with what we're doing and like the doing with like our book intensive clients who are helping them use Jarvis for the book side of things
Uh-huh.
is like it's really easy to go surface level and not go a lot deeper on what is your character's actual development in that regard. And so it's my favorite recipe right now because I've got like 100 people that are testing it out, and I'm
Oh,
seeing
cool.
all the different use cases. And so we're releasing the recipe like we're doing an advanced readers sort of like copy bit to the point so we can get a lot of the feedback from this initial recipe that we've made. We can refine it, fine tune it, and then continue to build on top of it. Um, and I think what some so like a lot of the people that are using that recipe are coming
Mhm.
back and saying that it's really getting the more like of a creative story element to
Mm,
things, which is like, can Jarvis write fiction? It's like, well, yeah, but it's not just going to write a novel for you on its
right.
own. It's you have to direct it a lot in that case. But when you're talking, kind of like taking things back to the book that you're releasing and your section of it, right? It's all about your story, um, in and following your experience and getting that out to to more people. Is there like, have you studied the hero's journey in the past, like at all? And in your marketing, we have another comment from Greg here mentioning story branding. It's essentially what we're doing here, and
Yeah.
it sounds like instinctively that's what
It
you're teaching. I'm curious if you've studied that in any.
I have not studied it. I've heard about it, but I haven't intentionally studied it. And
Mhm.
now that you mention it, yeah, that's I guess subconsciously that's what I did. Um, but yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I think it's interesting how like subconsciously that's like in our DNA, right?
Right.
With how these stories like move. It's just, do we realize that we're living in our own story like all the time? That like the more effective you can communicate stories, the more effective your marketing message is going to be.
Totally.
Um, and it's just this big cycle that just keeps going back and forth with it. So I love the cohesion though of how you tie in the personal branding with all of it and making kind
Mhm.
of yourself the face, because that's the most memorable thing on
Yeah.
top of all of this. And Molly being a mentor to you, right? She's just
Yeah. She's awesome.
she's a powerhouse out there in the industry. What are a few like big tips that you've learned from Molly since you've been mentored by her that you've implemented and see like amazing results? She's a big fan of lives, so maybe
Yeah.
that's one of them. Is anything else that you've taken away from Molly that has just been a really great game changer for you and helped you move along in your journey?
Yeah. So, a big one is when the C word happened. As an agency, most of our clients were brick and mortar. And so I was scared, like really scared. Uh, just some clients had to completely close, never reopened. And that definitely was going to affect my personal life. as far as the income that I was bringing in. So Molly and I have been friends for some time. I've been in Camera Confidence for a little while prior to that. And she reached out and she had said to me, why don't you teach what you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? Why don't I teach what I do? And she said, you have time now. You're passionate about working with other entrepreneurs, because I was doing some consulting as well. The agency mainly does done for you services, but on the side, I did some consulting. And she said, teach what you do. You're passionate about it. You have, you're an expert. You know what you're doing, and other entrepreneurs can really benefit from learning what you do. Teach them the same strategies that you use as an agency. And that's what I did. I put myself out there and I took on a few extra one-on-one clients. And then when I was done with them, they asked me, is there anything else that we can do together outside of one-on-one, to continue learning? And I was like, I don't have anything. So then I created a program. And so now it's been a year that it's the Splash Marketing Collective has been around. And so that is something that I'm so grateful for Molly for that, because I would not have stepped up. And I've thought a bit about it. I've wanted to do that on my own for a while, but I didn't have the time, for one. And then I was also scared. You get that imposter syndrome that we get. Like, I know how to do it for other businesses, but I don't know that I'm that great that I can teach it to somebody else for them to do it for their own business. And so she definitely gave me the confidence to just try and move forward and show up more. And so that's when I really started to do more Facebook Lives too. Yeah.
How do you feel that teaching this over the past year, how do you feel that has crossed over to your done for you services, and the impact that you can create now looking back since you started teaching it?
Yeah. So well, what it did was it allowed me to also realize that I needed extra support and invest in a team. So I started with one VA, and now I have a team of there's 6 of us total, and a project manager. And so it made me realize that I could work so much more efficiently and effectively if I wasn't doing it all on my own. And so that's when, I decided, okay, I need to definitely hire on some people so that then I can focus more on consulting and the one-on-one and mentoring other entrepreneurs. Now, some of them, the other interesting thing is some of them didn't want I found this out too, which, I always assumed, okay, an entrepreneur, they wouldn't be able to budget for a done for you agency. So I'm going to go straight to talk to them about my program or one-on-one. And I was completely blown away. Like, I've had many clients that I thought would have been in my program that actually wanted the done for you with some coaching also. So it's just opened up my eyes to, number one, not assume, just because myself, like, I personally at the moment could not have hired an agency to do my own marketing. So, but don't assume that everyone's the same way. And secondly, allow yourself to invest in some support. It really allows your business to expand because you have more time to serve others the way that you are passionate about. So yeah, those are some definite things that have happened over this last couple years now.
I read a book recently called Who Not How. It was Dan Sullivan. I might be wrong on the name of the
Who Not
author.
Dan Sullivan.
It was him and they co-authored the book. And it was like kind of like what you were saying was like, you found the people that were doing the things to support you. And so you can build this base, but you're hiring people that, can do it versus you like doing the how all the time and figuring it all out. I imagine, like that's taking a weight off of your shoulders for one.
Yeah,
And now like it's a cool feeling when you can like know that you're building something beyond just yourself, right? Like
it is.
solopreneur style to like,
Right.
okay, like you might be even working less now than you were before, but you're actually like having a larger impact. I mean, I don't know if that's how you are, but it's something where like if you're working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week doing
Yeah.
everything, you're not as effective at the things that you really need to be effective at, which, if you're a coach or, you're coaching people, then you need to be there to show up and you can't be showing
Yeah.
up burnt out.
No, and I was getting burnt out like big time. And that's, and it's still a challenge to find that balance of
Yeah.
I'm one that like I want to be in control of
Mhm.
everything. So that's the other thing is learning to give up control was a big lesson throughout all of this. Um, and I'm getting better at it. So, but I think that's also something that many entrepreneurs deal with is finding that balance between work and life and personal life, but then also learning to let go of control.
Yeah, no, I experienced the same exact things. It's like you want to have your hands on all of it and all of
Yeah.
the buckets, but it's a big release to do that, and it's not necessarily an easy thing too. Is there any like experience you can point back to that's helped you take a step back, like a book, a quote, like a mentor that kind of you know pointed you in that direction that like, hey, you need to just step back.
Yeah, I have a couple mindset coaches
Okay.
that really helped me. Just they helped me really just be more in the present, and also, my family and my kids. So my daughter's 15, my son is 10, and just being having them home more often through the last 2 years. Now they're back in person at school, but um it was it was a really nice experience to have them home and to be with them more. So throughout that, it also made me realize, okay, it's okay to shut down at, 7 o'clock at night. I mean, and there are still times that I'll come back to my laptop at like 11 o'clock at night. Um, and I have to remind myself, it can wait till tomorrow. Like nobody's up right now, Gina, waiting to get your email or waiting for you to create this piece of content for them. They're not waiting, by their computer for that. Um, so yeah, those are some of the things that have helped. Definitely journaling too. That's something that I never really did. And journaling has really helped. And I'm learning to meditate as well. So
Yeah,
I can't go very long, but that has helped. The times that I do, it's really helpful.
are you using an app for the meditation, or are just sitting solo?
So I can't sit solo. I am using an app. I use Calm, and Shine is another one.
Okay. I'm not familiar with either of those. I've used Headspace in the past,
Okay.
and that was nice. But I definitely need to get back on some of the meditation, bits. There's a few months or the last few months I've had a issue in the morning routine, sleeping in as much, and that's when I would normally be meditating.
Hmm.
Um, but I got a white noise machine a few weeks ago that like is just been a game changer for falling asleep and staying asleep. I don't know what it is, but
That's
um,
I've heard that white noise works well though.
we had this dump truck that would show up at 4 a.m. and just blare outside of the apartment. And, this seems to knock it out enough. But yeah, it's been probably the best investment that I've made off of Amazon in the last 6 months was a $20 white noise machine. Like no joke, like it's been a game changer. Um, and yeah, that's so awesome. I mean, I think that the journaling is something and journaling and meditation is something across the board that, you hear from the high performing side of things
Yeah.
and getting better at it. So practices that I know for sure that I need to be putting more of a focus on. And it's great that to reinforce from your experience that has been such a powerful tool. Um, how long do you journal for on a daily basis? I'm curious. You mentioned you could turn those journal pieces into social media posts and content.
Yeah. So in the morning, it's just like giving gratitude and thanks, and then also my intentions for the day. It's maybe like 10 minutes at the most. But
Mhm.
then I also keep a note tab on my phone so that when things are happening throughout the day, like, I had a conversation with someone or something that one of the kids did or something like that, I'll make a note of it, and I try to find a way to relate it back to my business somehow to create a post for it. Um, and actually, I've put it into Jarvis to help, turn that around a bit so that it makes sense and I can make it relate back to my business somehow. The other thing I was going to say, though, too, when we were talking about what, practices is I don't open my phone anymore first thing in the morning. I used to do that all the time. And I won't do that. And I also turn it off by like 8 o'clock, it's off. So if you try to reach me, you can't. And that's something that I had a really hard time doing before. But I find that that's a lot, it's easier. You're not in that work mode when you don't have it around and it's not buzzing.
Oh, that's a great point. I turn mine on airplane mode at night, but I think even then, like I still end up like sneaking over sometimes
Checking. Yeah.
and checking it. Yeah, but I mean, no, that's great. I really am. I'm inspired by like the simplicity of like the habits that need to continue to happen, like kind of across the daily basis, and all comes back to mindset, like you said. It
Yeah.
all comes back to showing up, and like your 4 points earlier, the steps to sharing your story and energizing your audience. That's
Hmm.
going to feed off of your energy, and they're going to respond to that. So the more that you can show up by doing the pre-work for this stuff and showing up to like point number one was like, what's the problem that you want to solve?
Right.
The sharper you can show up on the front end of that is the more impact you're going to be able to have, and the more people you're going to reach, and the more successful your business and platform are going to go. So thank you so much for sharing, Ginna. It's been a pleasure
Yeah.
talking with you and having you
Me too.
on with us. I know we're at the top of the hour, respectful of your time. So any last places that you'd like some people to send you? You've got your programs, your services. If someone wants to reach out to you to chat with you more about what you're up to, how they can work with you in some regard, or just say hi,
Yeah,
where can they find you?
totally. So Facebook and Instagram at Stylishly Branding. You'll find me there and just shoot me a DM or, a message to the page. And I love to connect with new people. So yeah, I would love that. That would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ginna. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.